Miniver Cheevy, child of scorn, grew lean while he assailed the seasons. He wept that he was ever born, and he had reasons. Miniver loved the days of old, when swords were bright and steeds were prancing. The vision of a warrior bold would set him dancing. Miniver sighed for what was not, and dreamed and rested from his labors. He dreamed of Thebes and Camelot, and Priam's neighbors. Miniver mourned the ripe renown that made so many names so fragrant. He mourned romance now on the town, and art a vagrant. Miniver loved the Medici, albeit he had never seen one. He would have sinned incessantly, could he have been one. Miniver cursed the commonplace, and eyed a khaki suit with loathing. He missed the medieval grace of iron clothing. Miniver scorned the gold he sought, but sore annoyed he was without it. Miniver thought and thought and thought, and thought about it. Miniver Cheevy, born too late, scratched his head and kept on thinking. Miniver coughed and called it fate, and kept on drinking.
Hey Jessie, I just saw this video about Miniver Cheevy, and I have to write an English paper about it, and to be honest, I really just don't understand it. Can you please help me?
Well, I've never read that poem, so let me look it up real quick. Okay, well, let's start with the first stanza. It talks about Miniver growing up through the seasons as a child of scorn. Okay, look, so apparently the author, Edwin Arlington Robinson, felt like he was a child of scorn too. He also thought he didn't really belong in the life he was born in. He was born into a family and he was the third son, but the family had wanted a daughter instead of a son. They didn't even name him until he was 6 months old. I guess he really was a child of scorn.
Well, the next stanza mentions days of old and warriors bold, so I think that means medieval times, am I right?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, in the whole poem, it talks about medieval times all the time. This is just the start of it in the poem. Miniver daydreamed of being born in the times of knights and warriors. Even in the next stanza, he talks about Thebes, Camelot, and Priam's neighbors. Thebes was a famous mythical city in ancient Greece.
When I think of Thebes, that makes me think of some legendary heroes, like Oedipus and the Macedonian conquerors. And everyone knows Camelot, Jessie. That's the story of King Arthur and the Knights of the Round Table. And Priam was the king of Troy, right? So I get all of that. But what does the next stanza have to do with anything?
This one looks hard. Okay, so he wished he was there during the Renaissance because there's so much art. When he says an art a vagrant, I believe he's saying that art is not as present as it was back in the Renaissance period, so he's mourning it.
Okay, that sounds good, but I'm reading the next part now. What's a Medici?
I know this one. Okay, so the Medicis were a powerful family that ruled Florence, Italy through much of the Renaissance. I just remember this because I love Italian food. But anyway, back on track. I kind of get the next stanza too. The khaki suit was what people normally wore. It was very common, and Miniver wished he could have worn something like the knights did back in the medieval times.
Yeah, so I know the next stanza since I talked to my teacher about it. Robinson apparently really resented his poverty while condemning practical materialism and popular notions of success, which is kind of what Miniver was talking about. He scorned the gold he saw.
I'm reading the last two stanzas now. Okay, so Miniver was frustrated that he didn't have money and seemed almost obsessive about it because the poem mentions him thinking about gold a lot. But the last stanza says that he was drinking. I think it's really ironic that he seems so annoyed with his money problems, but it seems to me that he spent a lot of his money on drinking and loafing around. Well, I hope that helps, Helen.
Okay, thanks, Jessie. That was a lot of help. Bye. Hey Alex, I have to write an essay on the poem Miniver Cheevy. Jessie gave me some good insight into the meaning of the poem, but I was hoping if you could help me dig a little deeper into it.
Okay, well, first of all, the name of the poem has meaning.
Miniver Cheevy?
Yeah, miniver is a certain type of fur used to trim the ceremonial robes of nobles and royals.
Does Cheevy have any meaning?
Yup. Cheevy resembles the French word cheval, which is French for horse. It also resembles chevalier, which is French for knight.
that's pretty cool, but I think my teacher's going to want more than just an analysis of the title. Do you have anything else?
Well, we can talk about the structure.
You mean how the poem is symmetrical, and all 8 stanzas have 4 lines?
Yeah, that and the first and third lines of each stanza have masculine rhymes, while the second and fourth lines have feminine rhymes.
What are masculine and feminine rhymes?
A masculine rhyme has the final syllable of one line rhyme with the final syllable of another, while the feminine rhyme does the same thing but with 2 syllables.
Okay, thanks. I also noticed that the last lines of each stanza aren't only feminine, but they're short too.
That's kind of anticlimactic, don't you think?
Yeah, but I thought that was the author's intention.
I think you're right. It adds a nice ironic contrast between Miniver's dreams and his reality.
Can Miniver's dreams and wish to escape his reality be considered a theme of the poem?
Definitely, and he uses alcohol to escape into that dream world of his.
I think another theme could be that Miniver doesn't blame himself for his own future.
Yeah, he rationalizes that he was simply born in the wrong time period.
Thanks, Alex. You were a lot of help.
Yeah, anytime, I'm happy to help. I know poetry can be kind of confusing. Anticlimactic, 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 don't you think?